It's 7:01. I'm going to call the special meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. First item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd ask Selectman Muska to lead us in that.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All members are here and present. Our first item of business is the approval of minutes from our June 6th, 2024 regular meeting. Everybody had a chance to review?
Move to approve the Board of Selectmen regular meeting minutes from June 6th, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second for discussion.
Motion has been made and seconded for discussion. I'll open it up to discussion. Maureen, floor is yours.
Well, hang on. Anybody else got something first? Because I have to.
I
Sarah?
do have a correction on page 4 under new appointments C. It has Wayne Sherry listed in both motions, when the second motion should be Tom Buckley.
Nice catch.
And I believe the terms were different, right?
The terms were different and they are listed correctly in the bullet, not in the motion.
Right.
On the same page, under corrections, page 5, on page 3.
I'm
Clarification,
sorry, page 3,
page 3, page 5 under the corrections.
So you're right under 4B, talking about page 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got it. Take the clarification to the time sheet submitted by the election workers.
Yep.
That was supposed to be corrected, submitted by the Register of Voters,
Right.
Aaron Goodrow. Not the election workers. They didn't submit any hours. It was the Register of Voters. That was the correction that was supposed to be made. So that's got to be recorrected, if you don't mind. And then,
That's all I have.
on page 12, Thomas Buckley Kingsport questioned the lighting in the town's facility. That was the Broadbrook Elementary School. I don't know if we want clarification or not. He was concerned about the blue light that was put up out there.
Yep.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess it is a town facility, but
It should say the
It should
blue
say
light at
the
the
blue
Broadway
light at
Elementary School.
the elementary school.
Anything else?
No, that's it. I mean,
Yes.
Two things.
You got
On
the-
page 5,
yeah.
9A, after the motion. This was on the road drainage, Trumley Road. It says Selectman Yagaloff expressed his disapproval of the project being approved without his participation in the bidding process. I never asked for participation in the bidding process. I only asked for an opportunity to review the bids.
I'm sorry, what page are you on?
Is that page 4 under 9A?
5.
I'm sorry, page 5, 9A?
I get to read, Selectman Yagaloff expresses disapproval of the project being approved without reviewing the bids.
Not really splitting hairs. I mean, it's the same
No.
thing.
I never asked to be part of the bidding process. I only asked to review the bids. And I never said that, but, and then, on page 8. Under this minutes, this was the, use of the fund balance for the roof. It says Yagaloff stated that he believes in making decisions based on data rather than approximations. He does not support it. I stated I believed in making decisions based on data. I didn't say anything about approximation, so I'd like it just to end right there.
Fine.
And that's it.
Al, anything from you? All right. Any other changes, ladies? All in favor of the minutes as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? June 18th special meeting.
Move to approve the Board of Selectmen special meeting minutes from June 18th, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Are there any corrections?
I just want to apologize that I wasn't at that meeting and I wasn't in a zone where I could zoom into it. But I'm glad to see that the vendor that was chosen was the original vendor that was requested by DPW. So I guess I really didn't miss a lot.
Hearing no corrections, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Staying because I wasn't here.
And one abstention. All right, we're on to public participation. This is one of two opportunities for members of the public to address the Board of Selectmen. If you'd like to speak, I'd ask you to identify yourself by your name and your address, and then state your business. I'll first provide the opportunity to anybody here in the room, and then I'll do the same to anybody who may be with us online. Is there anybody here who would like to address the Board of Selectmen? Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Paul Anderson, 89 Main Street. First, I have to state that comments I make here are from me. They don't represent any other entity or any other person, but there's been comments on Facebook lately, the library. I just want to get that out. These are my personal comments,
Proceed, sir.
just in case. Problem. Looked over the arts and culture project, which I think is a good idea. But I do have a concern that if that particular concept of the rainbow was used on that sidewalk, it's going to look like a pride flag. And my understanding is we have a, excuse me, unwritten policy, I believe, that we don't use town property to put out private displays. But other concepts would be wonderful. So I just have a big concern over that, but and it's not, if it's intended that way, it's how it's interpreted, that's the problem. So otherwise, you guys decide what you want to do.
At the risk of not being misinterpreted on Facebook at a later date, let me say this is neither an agreement or a disagreement with your comments. I'll simply say thank you for sharing them. Is there any other public comments? Is there any other public comments? Is there any other public comments? Is there anyone online who would like to address the members of the Board of Selectmen? All right, we will move on to the next item on our agenda. We have a couple of new appointments tonight. Two to the Economic Development Commission and one to the Planning and Zoning Commission. I think everyone is familiar with Noreen Farmer, who has agreed to step forward and serve on that commission. And her application is in your packet, and I would ask for a motion.
I'll move to appoint Noreen Farmer to the Economic Development Commission as a regular member for a term expiring June 27th, 2028.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, I think with her background, that everybody has read in our package, and knowing her, for a lot of years, she'll be an asset and can help that, commission, move forward. So,
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. This next individual, I'm just going to introduce this a little bit. So we had conversations, I don't remember where, I don't remember if it was at a selectmen's meeting at someplace else, but expressing the need for new people to step forward and get involved. And honest to God, the very next day, this woman was in my office and she spent probably an hour introducing herself and visiting, and she is righteously well qualified. I'm excited to have somebody new stepping forward, especially somebody with her background and experience and willingness to serve the community. And Sandra Downey is her name, and she's willing to serve both on the Economic Development Commission and as an alternate member on the Planning and Zoning Commission. I strongly endorse her appointment. But I would ask for a motion from the board.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Sandra Downey, to the Economic Development Commission, a term expiring
June 27th, 2020.
June 1st, 2027.
June 27th.
June 27th, 2028.
This is January. Next term expires 1 month.
It's the, I'm sorry. 1/1/28.
The agenda is incorrect
Yeah.
then.
Okay, so 1/1/28.
Yep,
Second.
discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Is she here?
I don't see her. No.
We also make a motion that we appoint Sandra Downing to the Planning and Zoning Commission as an alternate term to expire 1/1/2030. That's, is she replacing Frank?
She is, or what's the other big? Yeah, she's replacing Frank.
So it'd be, next term expires 10/1/2030. His term currently, is she taking it to the 30 or is she taking it to the end of his term?
End of his term.
Okay, so it would be, I apologize, it'd be 10/01/25.
Second.
Discussion.
Thank her for stepping forward.
I'm really
Yes.
excited about her.
Always nice to have you, good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have roughly 18 minutes before we need to break for the town meeting. Let's see if we can take a couple of things out of order so we can not be in the middle of something when we do that. I would ask that we take up agenda item 9D. So Webster Bank's request for an updated banking resolution.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Madam Treasurer.
So Webster Bank reached out to us, they have not had a new business since 2007. So they've asked us to just do an updated one. We looked through minutes, you did one in 22, but you did it for TD Bank, but we're over the CP there. So Webster Bank has not been done since 2007, and they are just asking for affirmation from you guys that if you want it to be the first selectman, the finance director, and the assistant treasurer, which are the same three signers that are currently there.
And
No
those
change
are,
in banking,
those are specific to titles, not people.
yes. We don't have to do it every time a body changes.
Questions or comments? All right. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, to accept the public utility resolution from Webster Bank, and authorize the signatures as necessary.
Second. Discussion.
Is that read right? Public utilities resolution?
Public entity.
The only thing,
Turn the front page.
this would have to be changed.
Yeah, we'll update it. It is the public entity resolution for Webster Bank.
That's what I said.
You said utility.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking of something else. I'm sorry. Yeah, public entity.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Thank you.
The right date when you sign.
I appreciate that. Chief Carl, are you prepared to talk about the rural roads grant? All right, then I'd ask that we take up agenda item 9F. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chief Carl, the floor is yours.
Oh, yeah. So the rural roads grant is a grant that we received. It's 100% funded by the state, and so there's no town match. It was a $50,000 grant. We've exhausted the grant by putting the officers on the road, specifically in the rural roads to combat the never-ending traffic complaints that we have, speeding and other things. We were notified, probably before you, that we can possibly receive an extension of that. It would be you authorizing or signing the extension of that in the event that more money would become available. And if they open it back up in November again, we would be in a better position to get more of the funding. So the document that you have before you is just a breakdown of extending it to 2024, 2025 season. It's basically that. I can answer any questions.
What happens if we don't elect to extend it this evening?
It would come out, we would then apply, go through the application process and be in the pool with everybody else to get it. This would put us in a better position to just continue the grant.
And how successful has the rural roads enforcement project been?
it's been very successful, except for we don't ticket residents. But it's been, I'd like to say it's very successful, but there might be people that were stopped in the whole process. It might be otherwise, right? So, but for the police department, the reason that we do the motor vehicle traffic, whether you issue a ticket or it's just a regular written warning or a verbal warning, is obviously high visibility keeps traffic, keeps people honest driving. If complaints are all over town, you know, we're in one section and we'll move to another section and that section starts heating up again. The idea is, and it's supported with data-driven analysis, that the motor vehicle obviously keeps motor vehicle crashes down. And that's our goal. So we're seeing a reduction in our actual crashes, certainly the ones that require, or have injuries and fatalities. We are seeing a reduction in those. And this was a target of rural roads. So we weren't using it for the corridor, the Route 5 corridor or 140. This is just specifically for the rural roads that happen in town. So it's a program that the Deputy Chief and I highly support. It was successful. The officers worked it. You can see that they exhausted the $50,000. It's money that doesn't have to come from my budget or the town budget funds, and it augments our safety. We're not putting our officers that are on the road answering calls out to do the traffic.
And how regularly would you say the complaints that I relay to your office regarding traffic enforcement pertain to town roads, rural roads versus state roads?
Without a percentage, I would say a high percentage. There's a couple of ways that you can file a traffic complaint. You could do it through our website, which then notifies our supervisor in charge of traffic, myself, the lieutenant, the deputy chief. We receive some from you, from constituent complaints, and obviously we get them the phone calls. And so rural roads come up quite a bit, the stop signs, the speeding, truck traffic on, you know, roads like Plantation Road and things like that, where there's obviously it's pretty hot out there right now with the truck traffic. So, you know, we are pretty successful. During the COVID phases, we were somewhere around 1,300 motor vehicle stops a year. Typically prior to that, we were at 3,000, 3,300. Now we can get some shifts where there's 50 or 60 motor vehicle stops in an 8-hour shift. So we are definitely curbing. It's hard to say if you're living on a road where you say, well, the police, they're still speeding down my road, but we are making our efforts. So
Much appreciated. Any questions for the chief? Yes.
First, Chief, I want to say that I think this is an important initiative because those of us that live in the rural part of town want to see police presence. And we often sometimes say, well, where's the police presence driving around? So it makes a difference to bring police into that part of town to make everyone see that, you know, it's important. Can you just tell us what kind of, what's the nature of the enforcement? Are these vehicles that are driving around looking for speeders, or are they stopped in one spot with radar? What kind of enforcement do they do?
Don't tell them.
yeah, so we.
It's okay.
It's still, yeah, there's no secret. That's the question. So we have a couple of ways to mark the speed. We have LiDARs, handheld LiDARs, which is basically a laser that would defeat most types of devices that would indicate somebody was speeding. That's a stationary thing when they look through like a binocular and they hit a target. That's generally with a traffic, what we call a traffic control assignment. They'll go out early in the morning or in the afternoon or whatever. They'll stay in one place stationary and target certain roads or certain types of things. Sometimes they're actually not doing speed and it's a stop sign violation at, say, Windsorville Road. It's people coasting through. So it'll depend on what the complaint is. And we also have the ability in the cars to be driving and have the moving radars. The radar would catch you coming the other way or vice versa. So the actual breakdown of what it is, I wouldn't be able to speak intelligently about, but there's three, we're looking for the moving violations that are from, stop signs, typically stop signs. I would say traffic signals, but those are not rural roads generally. So it's stop signs, it's speed, and it's aggressive driving, passing and no passing, things like that.
The concept is sort of like you were presenting about the traffic cameras and that sort of thing, with ideas to get the enforcement out there and to change people's behaviors. But you also reported on the fact that a lot of people speeding are crossing through the town.
Yes.
They're not residents. And so, we're targeting, the goal isn't to target residents and burden them with speeding tickets. It's really to target speeders, but a lot of them are people cutting through town that are on their way somewhere and they're going really fast and blowing through stop signs. So,
Right.
it's really important.
Yeah, there's a lot of pass through. So the artery to get to 91, everybody knows what they are. So it's more than just Route 140, because people will stay off of that. So they'll shoot those other side roads, get down Tromley, Phelps, they'll get down anyone Stoughton or anyone else to Route 5 and then carry on. And those, to get there, the speeds are pretty high. Rockville Road's one of the biggest ones that we're getting a lot of high speeds. But we put on Rockville Road, we put the stationary ones that will record your speeds on there and hope that it all comes down to education. We're trying to slow the public down, get those injuries down, get those complaints down.
Other questions or comments?
Is your signature the one that needs to
Yes.
be authorized? Okay. I'll move to approve the second amendment to the rural road speed enforcement grant for an extended date of June 30th, 2025, and authorize the signature of the first selectman.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, sir.
Excellent, thank you.
At this point in time, I'm going to ask for a motion to recess the meeting of the Board of Selectmen so we can conduct the town meeting at 7:30.
Okay.
Move that we recess at 7:22 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. It's 7:30. I'm going to call the town meeting to order. Our first item of business, I'm going to hold off on for just a second. Because of the number of people who are here, we are going to recess the town meeting and move across the street to the elementary school to make sure that we're in compliance with fire code. Thank you, Dr. Tudrin, for making that available. I appreciate that. So I'm going to ask for the election of a moderator, and then we're going to recess and reconvene in 15 minutes across the street. So everybody has a chance to get over there. Is there a nomination?
Nick Mixada, I nominate, Nick Mixada, 24 Sullivan Farm Road, Robert Day. I nominate Alan Baker.
Is there a second? Are there any other nominations? Seconded by Karen Paradise. Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? I'd ask for a motion to close nominations.
Motion to close nominations.
Motion's been made by Denise Menard, seconded by Bill Los. All in favor of closing nominations, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All in favor of Alan Baker as moderator, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, sir. The meeting is yours.
We will recess this meeting at 7:31 and reconvene in 15 minutes across the street at the Broadbrook Elementary School.
It's 8:37. I'm going to reconvene the meeting of the Board of Selectmen. We'll return to the regular call of the agenda and take up agenda item 8B, which is discuss and possible vote on the registrar's compensation issue. There were a couple of questions that were left for Amy to research. I think, Sarah, you had posed the majority of them. So Amy is here to share what her findings are, and then we can take it from there. Madam Treasurer, the floor is yours.
The basically for this election meeting, I was asked to find out start and end times for all the early voting and the early voting training. I received the contact information on June 14th from Mark Simmons, and I called everyone that I got a contact number for. Everyone said no additional time for training. Hours worked are in the blue next to the hours on Karen's analysis. So you should have a column that's yellow, and then now it has blue writing next to the hours. So it said 3 hours, it now has a 9 o'clock on the one side and a 12 o'clock on the other to show that the hours were from 9. Everybody see that in your package?
Yep.
So Denise and Mark learned the registrar's jobs on March 21st and March 25th for 7.5 hours, including learning on the Connecticut state system. They are not yet paid for that time. I was also asked to compile the hours worked over the last 2 years. I did the full years of 21-22, 22-23, and the partial year for 23-24. That analysis has times on it and has boxes that looks like this.
Yep. Page 1 of the packet. Went 1 and 2.
So that has each hour worked in the 2-week time period, what they got paid and what it worked out to an hourly rate. The average hourly rates over those 3 periods are $54.31 an hour, $48.72 an hour, and $50.24 an hour currently for fiscal 23-24. The time period in question is from March 11th through April 5th, relating to the early voting tied to the Broadbrook Commissioner early voting block. During these 4 weeks, Karen worked 84 hours, was paid $2,891.74, which is $34.43 an hour. Karen submitted an updated payment request, which was emailed to you all yesterday, with 4 additional hours. If I add those 4 hours to the 84 hours, the hourly rate becomes $32.86. She is requesting $1,062.50. If that is added to it with no more hours, that makes it $44.93 per hour.
Can I just ask
Is that a reasonable amount?
Sorry, but the updated document I received via email yesterday is actually less, not 4 hours more.
No, it's 4 hours more than what she submitted on, the one that's on here.
Okay,
She submitted a sheet that had an extra 4 hours on it, on that sheet. The 4 hours on March 21st under preparation are new. She removed some of her other hours. She
Okay.
removed all the training for the other people.
okay,
And I did call everybody and everybody said no additional training.
okay.
She did remove those 4 days.
So you're saying she added more time to March 21st, but removed hours from other days, so
Yeah.
that's why it's, got it, thank you.
So it went down $62.50, which would be equivalent of 2 hours.
Clarification. She put in 7 hours and she broke it out 3 hours and 4 hours for 2 different things.
Yeah.
So that doesn't change the amount of hours worked. It's just how she reallocated her time.
No, it does, because on her timesheet, she didn't have 7 hours.
Oh, she didn't, okay, I didn't see the timesheet, okay.
Yeah. I do have copies for those 2 timesheets if everybody wants them.
I take your word.
So the question that had been asked was the pay reasonable? There was some question about how much an hour we were paying her if we paid $35 a day for training. Just want to remind you that that's in addition to stipend money. Stipend is paid for all the preparation relating to the early voting. We paid separately for early voting. So I'm still proposing that we pay $35 a day for training, which is the state amount that they get when they go to training for ROBAC. And Karen now has 4 days of training on her new analysis. So that would be $140 for her. Angela, they have 1 day for, which would be $35. Denise and Mark both have 2 days, so that would be $70.
So everyone else that was on the original sheets on May 16th has been contacted and they've indicated that they are not owed additional training money, except for what you just stated for Mark and Denise, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
I asked, what is the $35 a day for training? Who, you said somebody pays that?
That's the state statute. We pay it every time they go to ROBAC training. There's a state statute that requires us to pay them $35 stipend for the day.
So they
In
don't,
addition to their regular stipend, we pay that.
it's in addition to the regular, they get an additional $35.
Yep.
And so the plan is to pay her $35 for the day plus her regular stipend.
She already got paid a regular stipend, but yes.
Just the hours worked, which isn't a full day. Some are 2 hours, some are,
The statute doesn't specify on an hourly basis for training, it's a
It's
per
just a
day
per
basis,
day
so if you
basis.
train for 20 minutes, if you train for 14 hours, it's the same thing in statute.
same thing.
Jason, can I just ask, kind of, what are we doing? Are we setting a rate going forward that we think is a reasonable rate for the registrars for these non-stipend hours and setting an hourly rate, or are we dealing with the issue with Karen and with unpaid monies? Because I think last time we talked about the fact that the Board of Selectmen is responsible for setting the rate, right?
That is true.
Or are we doing both tonight? Are we doing just Karen?
We're only doing the Karen issue. And that's the only thing I think we should do because of the special meeting considerations. It's not really clear on the agenda that we would be doing something other than that. So I would think that that's probably the only thing we should do tonight.
But we already,
Consent, the budget.
right, we already did that as part of the budget process.
Well,
But after the budget, just hear me out, but after we set the rates for all the workers for the budget, then the law changed where now you have the early voting. The early voting is what is in question. And how many hours people worked.
right,
And rightfully so. They did their due diligence by questioning it, and as you see, there are some difference of opinion on what's a discrepancy and what's not, but we need to resolve it. In a state statute, it's $35 a day.
I think that we had a budget vote to incorporate their old expenses for the registrar's expenses plus the additional cost for the standard early voting.
No,
I just say my opinion is that, you know, Karen was a registrar. She's been operating for a long time. She's submitting time cards. I trust that she submitted time cards accurately. And I think.
She did not.
I think they've changed every time we've gotten documents, so that's how I'm curious.
I've seen explanations for things because she's been asked to revise things from training to only charge the $35 for training, et cetera. I don't have anything against Karen and her accounting and her submissions. I think she's as much as anybody dealing with a change in she's asked to change things and to resubmit things, et cetera. It's not a lot of money. We're talking about like $1,000 or something. I think my preference would be just to pay her from her accounting what I consider to be accepting as responsible accounting. She's no longer in the position. We don't want to end her relationship with her for $1,000 on kind of bad terms. We want to be able to, I think I want to be able to rely on her, submissions.
I don't want to set a precedent by appeasing somebody when we know that the information that was provided has been changed on several occasions.
It still has not been provided.
Not disrespecting anyone, but if we're going to have a policy, it can't be based on an individual. It has to be based on the policy, and take all the individuals out. I'm not trying to discredit anybody. I just want to make sure that what we're paying somebody is accurate. And I want to make sure moving forward that I don't give $1,000 to you and then turn around and I get $35. I'd be pissed. So
Marie, pick it up.
sorry for the word, but
What would be the adjustment? Can you tell us what was she looking for versus what is the recommended dollar amount based upon the assessment that the finance director did on the reasonable value? What are we talking about?
$1,100 requested versus $140 recommended, is that right?
The difference.
Yeah, I think it's an issue that it's someone who was working for the town in this capacity doesn't feel that they were compensated properly. I just,
Where does the registrar's stipend fit into all this? I mean, they already get a certain amount of money to be the registrar, and this is
Every 2 weeks, no matter what.
the stuff that they're doing is being the registrar. So if it feels sort of like getting paid twice to me, right? You're getting a stipend as the registrar. These are registrar duties. Training is above and beyond set by mandate. That's what I think we should pay. I think everything else is part of it's different than a moderator or something. They just come in, they get a stipend, they don't get anything else. The registrar is already agreed to do registrar work for the whole year for a certain amount of money.
So I would say I agree with you. I think that's the principal decision we need to make about setting the rates and defining the registrar, the compensation, what's different from their stipend duties, right? And how do we compensate that? So everybody's clear about it. But going back retroactively, as I understand it, the registrars and the moderators and everybody's been paid on a system that's been existing for a reasonably long time. And I don't see that Karen came in with a sudden change and said, hey, I want to just try to capitalize on this and get paid extra. She was doing what they were always doing. So Alan, I agree with you. I think we need to fix it. That's one of our responsibilities to say stipend duties are this, training is incorporated or not. You know, the voting at the polling places included or not, et cetera.
Well, I think you're a little confused. I don't think that's a fair statement. Because if we go by they're doing their job, as Alan says, then the early voting is an addition to what they're doing and it should be included in the stipend. I don't agree with that because it's new. The whole thing has to be reevaluated.
That's what I was saying. I agree with you, Marie.
You know, the whole thing has to be evaluated. And I don't like to talk openly in public on something, but she agreed to have it out in open public. But when you put in for training for all these people for an extra half hour, yeah, at the end of the day, it's not a lot of money, but I'm sure the Broadbrook Library would like to have that extra money. And then everybody's called and no training was done. Confusion, whatever, I don't know. But we got to do our due diligence and moving forward, we can't treat somebody differently than we're going to treat the people that are going forward, regardless of who they are. So I'm taking all the names out of the equation. I just want to make sure the policy is fair and equitable for everyone. And if state law says that if you go do any training, you get $35, whether you're there 15 minutes or 14 hours. I mean, as a moderator, I think I put in 36 hours one time doing election stuff over the course of the week. I didn't get any more money, nor did I expect any more money because I accepted the job the way it is. Their stipends, you accept the job the way it is. I take with the early voting because it's completely different and adds a lot, adds 25 more days, which is a lot of hours to be working 25 more days that it hasn't been included in the wages there. So, but if you look at the wages, I don't think they're underpaid either.
Agree.
So what do we want to do? Somebody like to make a motion?
Make a motion that we reimburse the Ms. Goudreau at her request, at the $1,100 request.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I vote no. What do we do now?
I think we should call her in and sit down with all the registrars and come to a resolution that's fair to all of them, past and going forward.
I would have been cool with the $35 a day.
As one of those, could I say something? Denise Menard, 73 Mill Road.
Registrar of voters.
Registrars, I was speaking with Mark earlier. The other registrar, Mark Simmons, and we don't want to be part of that fight. What was, we are starting a whole new thing here. And both he and I are expecting that with the next budget season, that we will have had the time and experience to really come in with some accurate projections for how things are going. Jason, when I was in your seat, it was supposed that the registrars work 4 hours a week. I can tell you I've worked probably 10 so far this week. And it has to do with early voting, has to do with things that are outside of the parameters of just being a registrar and registering voters and keeping those records. There's a lot more to it than there was when I was there. And yet I don't think the pay had been really challenged at all. And I don't know how much it has changed since then. It's 15,000 something now. We're certainly not in it for the money. Actually, if you can find somebody else to do it, we'd be happy with that. But
You missed the meeting.
honestly, we think that with a little bit more experience, we don't have the experience yet. So some of the stuff we're doing, we're rebuilding things because we can't find stuff
examples of how it was done before, so it's taking extra work. So we can't really judge now what the hours would be when we're kind of cleaning things up and moving things forward. But I would think by our next budget request, we'll have had a discussion with the selectmen, an in-depth discussion about what the pay should be, because neither Mark nor I were wishing to come out of retirement to do this. So we will be looking for people to replace us, and we need to have competitive pay and accurate expectations of the next person. So if that helps you at all, we don't want to be part of what has happened in the past.
Not sure that gets us anywhere tonight, but thank you for trying.
Well, there was discussion about having all the registrars.
Oh, yeah, you guys are opting out of that. I understand.
I'd like to see a little bit more detail from Karen, why she thinks that and I think I asked that, I'm not sure I got that answer through the budget season. Why she thinks the extra money on top of the stipend is necessary. There may be a good reason for it. I don't know. But I didn't hear it yet.
Because I don't think her job description says, and all other things that may come forward down the pipe 10 years from now. In all fairness, 25 extra days on their stipends. It's questionable. I don't think I would want to work 25 extra days at the same rate that I was getting for the last 10 years.
They are getting paid. Everybody's getting paid for every day of early voting. That's part of the budget. That's part of the pay. That is not part of their stipend. Their stipend is in addition to all 25 early voting days at a set stipend for each position.
Yeah, the question here is on training,
And prep.
Right,
and the statute speaks to training.
$35. So I would entertain a motion, because it failed, right?
It did.
I would entertain a motion that we go with the state statute. And because of the new change in our policy, pay the $35 as Rovac has for their training and fall suit.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
So that would be $35 a day for the 1, 2, 3, 4 days that are listed here as training.
Other discussion.
That would be like $4 an hour for those days because it's considered to be part of their stipend, even though they're working those. So those hours are, so just so I understand, if it's, the plan is to, the proposal is to include those days as stipend days,
They already are.
to include those days that call them stipend days. And then rather than additional work days and pay $35. So yeah, I think again, the problem here is that this the system that he said that's been put in place and the pay, we don't really even know accurately how many hours they're really working and how much they're making for their stipend. And yeah, I just think we're gonna leave on very bad terms with someone that's worked for the town for a number of years and never had an issue with any of this until she's asking for her last paycheck. And for $1,100 to say, no, you're wrong. You messed up your time cards and we're not gonna pay you when she feels that she's entitled is not gonna be a good way to have a good employee leave our town.
This is a new request. In all the years, we've never had a request for extra money on top of stipend money for hours already included on the time card. This is a totally new request. Never happened.
The issue is that they suddenly got confronted with large numbers of days of extra additional days for voting and a lot of prep work for not just one day for the poll. Now you're doing prep work and getting it ready for a new system that lasts like what, 20 days or more than 20 days. And so all of a sudden there's a ton of new work for the registrars in terms of rolling this out, making sure that every day is staffed, that the sites are operating exactly as they're supposed to under the law, because every voter that walks in has to be treated the way they're supposed to. And so you're telling, the registrars are now responsible for something enormously different. And she says, I think I should be paid for this additional work that I did that I don't think is part of stipend. And so I think it's a matter of kind of semantics, but this employee believes that she did the work, not part of her stipend, and should be paid. And I don't want to disagree with her because I think she might be right.
Chief Carl, you serve as the town's emergency management director.
Yes.
You've recently completed quite an update on the town's local emergency operations plan. Is that right?
Yes.
How many hours would you say you put into that?
In the local operation plan,
Right.
picked it up in June of 23 and be done January 24, at least a couple hundred.
Okay. And you receive a stipend for your role as emergency management director. Is that correct? And did you receive additional compensation for the additional hours of work associated with completing that task? Deputy Chief Murphy, you serve as the town's deputy emergency management director. Is that correct? And are you currently in the process of establishing the town's emergency response team? Oh, you're taking the classes as well. So Chief Carl, you've also completed ICS training.
Yes.
How many hours would you say you put into that?
You know, all of them in a 2-day class. 68.
Plus the 3-day class in August.
Yes.
And I've completed those as well. Did you receive additional compensation for the training time associated with that? Deputy Chief Murphy, have you received additional compensation? I have not either. So what's the difference?
Well, one difference is that, and I really don't like to talk, I don't want to talk about the specific jobs for the chief or deputy chief, but we have a number of employees in town that get comp time for work above their 35 hours a week when they come to meetings like this. And so they're getting comp time for doing work above their regular salary. It's not one, it's not two, it's quite a few. The registrars don't get comp time. They get paid a stipend and they get paid for coming to the polls. If we want to start talking about comp time. And
We're not talking about comp time, though. We're talking about compensation.
Yeah, people,
And you're talking about employees who are governed by collective bargaining agreement or employment contracts, not by stipends.
they're getting comp time for coming anything above 35 hours a week, time on the weekends, time in the evenings, time for special events.
Governed by their collective bargaining or employment agreements,
Right.
not stipends or elected positions.
Agreed to.
I agree, but why are we faulting a registrar for saying I have to get set up, I have to do prep work for early voting for weeks on a time, or for Denise, how long could it be for early voting? Is it like 28 days or something for the presidential election?
It's 7 days for the primary,
Yeah.
and it's 10 presidential.
Total of 25,
Was it?
total of 25.
Total of 25, okay.
This past spring.
This past spring, correct.
And what's it gonna be? Oh, presidential is 10?
But can I clarify? I think the training that was done during the work time. The registrars were in the office anyway. So I don't know, I haven't really dug into that whole thing, but if they were paid to be in the office, then that was part of what they were doing. When I got the training that I got, it was during the office hours there. They did not come in special to train me. There was none of that. So I don't know how it was filled out, but
Denise,
She got paid for that day.
if say you work 10 hours a week on average, and then all of a sudden there's a new system that's happening, and there's an additional 10 hours that have to be done that week for training. It's related, I think this is related to the early voting and the expansion of voting is what I understood. And so now, even though it's in the office, if you have to work 20 hours now to get ready for this early voting process. And there's also prep involved and so I don't know, again, I'm not sure like what's actually happened in terms of all the time. All I know is that she submitted a time card saying that she's entitled to that time. It's in addition to her normal stipend time. So now we either scrutinize it and say, no, we don't believe you, or we say, we're going to pay you. And that's what we're talking about here tonight.
So I got training as deputy registrar to learn the system, the computer system they use to record houses and that kind of stuff, right? So people that voted, that work the polls, the checker, the moderator, all those, did not get any training. If they had done it, if that early voting process is no different than another day's voting process. So there was no additional training needed for those folks that came in specifically to work the case.
But the registrar needed to know, and so I don't know if this is called training or not, they need to know how to collect the ballots each night. They all have to be collected, they all have to be stored, they all have to be
That's the
trained.
moderator's job, not the registrar's job.
Well, registrar is in
It's the same
charge.
process as it.
None of an election, the moderator's in
The
charge.
moderator is in charge.
I heard from Karen that there was a lot of work by the two registrars that was associated with the setup, prep, and organization around the early voting. And that it took education and training in order to be able to do that. That's all I heard. I'm not saying your experience would be different or her experience is right or wrong.
And as I said, I have.
Yeah.
Yep. It's not my job.
So we've got quite a bit still to do tonight. So there is a motion and a second. Further discussion amongst the board on the motion or the second?
I just want to say that it's unfortunate that after 43 years of service, that we have this discrepancy. I mean, I'm going to vote in favor of this motion because I think she deserves some compensation. I just feel that it's unfortunate that there is this much of a discrepancy. And I hope that going forward, there'll be more organization in the registrar's office as far as hours worked, and we can hopefully work on a policy or something so this doesn't happen in the future.
I would just add that my issue remains, has been and remains. I don't think we still have a accurate timesheet by this last submission by its own admission is not 100%. And I mean, it's hard that keeps changing and that amount keeps changing. And so I still don't know that we've come to a number that even the person that claims to have worked it agrees on. I'd like to hear more of the detail why that this should be paid in addition to the stipend, because that's to me where this all is
Well, I don't,
stipended work.
my concern is setting a precedent moving forward, because then, and I'm going to use you as an example, he's the same type of employee. He's hired to do a job. Doesn't matter if the job takes him 5 hours a day, 8 hours a day, or 24 hours a day. He gets the same amount. So if we're going to pay somebody else in the same type, and there's 3 people, I believe, in town that fall under that criteria.
5, including the chief.
5, and including them. Do we then say, hey, guys, now we just opened up the doors to you guys, you're not getting paid enough money? Which that's another subject for another day, that he's not getting paid enough money, the position, not necessarily you, but the position is way under salaried as far as I'm concerned, but that's an issue for another day. What's to prevent them and us setting a precedent and them come forward and say, hey, what about me? You know, and we used to have comp time. Comp time used to be given out like it was candy. And people retired with a lot of hours in comp time. And we changed those policies because it wasn't cost effective. So policy had been changed. And that's why we tried during the budget process to make those changes, which the registers at that time were included in that process. Whether or not they knew going forward there was going to be a change in the early voting with the legislature, I have to believe they had to have some knowledge of it. Does it need to be taken under consideration moving forward? Well, yeah, and I think that's what we're trying to do here. But what you do for one, you got to do for everybody. And that's all I'm going to say at this point.
Okay, so with everybody, I think having had their opportunity to state their position, I'm gonna call for a vote and ask all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I'm sorry, Marie, you were
Aye.
okay. Motion carries 3-1. On to agenda item 9A. I'd ask that we postpone 9A until after the executive session?
Moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'd ask that we table 9B and take that up at our next meeting on July 11th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'd ask that we postpone 9C until after executive session.
Moved.
Is motion made by Alan, seconded by Marie. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'd ask that we postpone 9E until after our executive session.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that brings us to tax returns. Tax refunds.
Move that we approve the tax refunds totaling $5,311.31.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Goes much quicker when we postpone it.
Until later.
Okay, we're gonna move on now to selectmen's reports. That's fine. So first of all, and I included this in the call that I did earlier today, but I want to let folks know that the scheduled closure of the Stiles Bridge which was scheduled for July 1st, has been delayed. We don't know when, but we have indications from the state that that is likely to still be in July. Further information on that temporary closure will be provided once we have it. On June 7th, as most of you have heard by now, because of the advocacy of State Representative Foster, the State Bond Commission approved $8 million for the town of East Windsor for the replacement of our emergency radio system. To announce the details of that event, Lieutenant Governor Bysowitz was in East Windsor on June 18th for a press conference, joined by Representatives Foster and Carol Hall, as well as our police administration and municipal leaders from East Windsor, Windsor, and Ellington. The funding is intended to be used to establish an enhanced system that will benefit those three towns and strengthen the overall public safety radio support system in North Central Connecticut. We are tremendously grateful for the financial and technical support from the state for this project. On June 12th, the town participated in a statewide emergency management drill, as we do several times a year. All emergency disciplines were represented, as well as the two registrars of voters. The registrars were active participants because of the topic of the drill, which focused on election disruption preparedness, particularly around cyber interference, toxic substances, violence, and harassment. On June 20th, the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities hosted its first Women in Government Summit to talk about inclusion in the workplace, opportunities for career advancement, means by which managers can support a work-life balance, and more topics. I was proud to attend, and prouder still to have 7 of our town staff attend that as well. On June 25th, I joined the residents of Park Hill for their annual summer cookout, and to wish Executive Director Linda Collins a very happy retirement, and she wraps up her service to the community at the end of this week. Linda has served as ZED for 10 years, and her commitment to the well-being of those residents is evidenced by the improvements she's made during her tenure. We wish her many years of happiness and relaxation as she transitions into retirement. The town summer concert series started tonight, and there's going to be another one on July 2nd, and then those will take place each Thursday throughout the rest of the summer, except for the first week in August, when that also will be on that Tuesday to coincide with National Night Out. These are really, really fun opportunities to be out in the park, enjoy the nice weather, enjoy the amenities. There were 30 or more kids playing on the playground when I left there tonight, which was awesome to see. Adults are allowed to bring adult beverages as long as they're responsible about it. It's a really great time in the park, and I encourage everybody to take part in that. So that's all I have. Marie.
I have nothing to.
Good enough. Sarah.
On June 11th, the Arts and Culture Committee met. They assessed how their second annual Arts and Culture Day went. Unfortunately, it did rain again this year.
No.
They estimated that there were about 150 people who attended, and that they had their birdhouse contest, and that was a big hit with 110 votes that were cast. Sharon Apria did paint the next book in the series on the mural across the street. If you haven't noticed that, you should check that out. Ruth Ann Calabrese was in attendance to discuss a collaboration with the POCD. There is a photo contest that will be in the works. The hope is to display photos of East Windsor in the report that will have the results of the survey. On on June 13th, I attended the Veterans Commission meeting. The group reviewed how the Memorial Day parade went this year, and they will be improvising and making a few changes next year, so the lining up is a smoother process. The Veterans Day 5K road race is November 9th this year. The entrance fees will remain the same as past years. It's very reasonable. Up to 17 years of age is only $10, up to and including race day. Age 18 and up is $15 if registered by November 8th, or it's $20 on race day. On June 24th, the building commission met. Joe Sauerhofer gave the group an update on the community center project. There was an explanation as to why the past few commission meetings have been canceled. In order to get a building permit, North Central Health District needed to sign off, and unfortunately that was delayed by 3 to 4 months. Currently the footings are 3/4 in around the building. Interior demo is complete. Walls are being formed. Old equipment is out and proper items are in storage. There has been some issues with some unsuitable soil. There's a lot of fill, I guess, causing the water line from the well to be removed, as well as the electrical line from the barn, which will need to be rerouted. And that's all that I have.
Thank you. Keith?
None tonight. Thank you.
Alan?
I was out the week before state, so I just have a short one. Planning and zoning met on Tuesday. Probably the one thing that was impactful is they have a public hearing in progress regarding what's commonly known as the Kemet property, where they're trying to do a soil reclamation facility there that would end up with probably 40 or 50 foot pile of dirt, with vegetation on it when it was completed and capped. But that public hearing is continued, and if you want to hear more about it, it's at their next meeting. So I just want to make sure you knew about that. Nobody mentioned, we were at the Board of Selectmen meeting. I think the demographic study that they presented last night was pretty enlightening, and hopefully we can get that socialized around town so people can start to understand what our expected population is, and kind of that's the first building block to anything that we may or may not do with the school systems. That's it.
Thank you. Public participation. This is the second opportunity for members of the public to address the Board of Selectmen. I'll first ask if there's anybody here in the room who would like to address the board, and then provide the same opportunity to anybody who's online. If you'd like to address the board, please say your name and your address and then state your business. Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Just want to make a comment, suggestion. The meeting we had over the public meeting, I think could be very possibly null and void, based on the fact that it didn't follow any ADA, American Disability Act. I was in the back. Everybody was speaking front, was mostly. I heard you, Jason, and I heard Keith. I couldn't hear anybody else. It's my right that I could file a legal complaint and I could make that whole thing disappear. And you have to do it over again. All I'm asking you to do is, could you please have some amplification there so I can hear. I wear 2 hearing aids, I'm hearing impaired. And I think that's an important thing, because I don't know what you guys are talking about. I wasn't part of the vote as far as hearing anything. I suggest strongly that next time there be some amplification so you can hear, so everybody can hear, or else somebody else may pick up on it and file a complaint. It's a serious thing.
Thank you for the comments. Your point is noted.
Secondly, I see a truck parked down at the Spencer parking lot for the reservoir. It's been there for weeks. What's going on with it? Does anybody know?
It's utilized by town staff at the park.
Doesn't move.
It's parked in the same spot. It does move.
Good answer, but I don't. Good reply. It sits there. It doesn't move, Jason. It sits there, okay? You're subject to a theft, number one, okay? High theft and catalytic converters. And secondly, the whole vehicle. And when something's stolen and the insurance gets involved, nobody wins. And the insurance rates go up. And I think that is a mistake, huge mistake. And I also want to know where I can get a list of the town vehicles, who has them, and who's assigned to them, and how many we have. Because I don't see any in the parking lot. Shouldn't they be coming here to take a vehicle out? Well, unless it's a person who uses it for 24-hour service, like I know that Joe does. But all the other cars should be parked here. They shouldn't be taking them home. It's my opinion. And I'd like to know where I can get a list of this.
You can get that in the finance office.
Finance office. That's it.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Yes, ma'am, and then you, sir.
Nicole D'Souza, 38 Perry Lane. So just two things, just the minutes from yesterday weren't posted yet, just for awareness if those, I don't know, I know it was a joint meeting between Board of Ed and Board of Selectmen, so I'm not sure. We can just make sure that those get posted. And then just also, I don't know how to address this, but I just want to make sure, like, the people know if they have concerns, not to wait until it's over to bring it up. Because I know for me, right, like if I knew that someone couldn't hear in the back, like we could have addressed that in real time. So I don't know if there's a fear of people being, but I want to make sure everyone knows that they're welcome to share their concerns. Don't feel like you need to wait till something's over to do so.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
John Matthews, Melrose Road. I agree with this gentleman that I said about 2/3 of the way back. And I would say half the people that spoke, I was not able to pick up. And I don't wear hearing aids normally, they can have a conversation in a room. So I think it's very important that you anticipate any town meeting where you're going to spend a lot of money. There were probably 120 people there. I think you need to anticipate that you're going to be across the road and speaker system and amplifier be set up, ready to go, and invite people to come up front and face the audience. So that we can all, I think most of the comments were very good. In fact, I'll comment about this process of approving project and going to town meeting and expecting the town meeting is our legislative body. Now, you ask them to spend $1 million on the project, and all we get is 5 words that this particular project is for replacing the roof on the town garage, or replacing the roof on the firehouse. Is that the work order that we submit when we request bids from the contractors? My point is that you need a work order, and the work order should be quite detailed, and that people that vote on a project should be aware there is a work order. These are the things that will be accomplished. I don't know, are you going to replace the insulation in there? Is it just stripping and putting a new roof on? The reason I asked that particular one, when I go through the numbers and go into the internet to look at roof replacement costs, the $400,000 would replace 4 of those roofs. So maybe I'm not seeing the work statement that says, here's how we got the 400,000. It's only 90,000 to replace the roof. However, we're going to do the insulation. We're going to redo the inside of the building. We need to change the ceiling tiles, whatever. So that when you go to the treasurer and ask her to pay the bills, she looks at the work statement and says, this is against what? And this is your estimate for that. I know what I'm paying. Rather than wait till the end and just pay 400,000. Or whatever it comes in at. My point is, we need work statements for every one of these projects, so that we can then go to the contractor and say, you didn't meet the workstation, what do you think? We're gonna pay. That's what I'm asking for, and this is just this has been my beef for 30 years. The statements that are made, the things that we vote on, that our legislative body, are statements that are 5 words long, 6 words long. It's not enough. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Any other public comment? Anybody online wish to address the members of the board? Hearing none, I'd ask for a motion to go into executive session to include the chief of police and the deputy chief of police.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are in executive session at 9:24.
Okay.
It is 11:51. We're out of executive session. We're going to return to the call of the agenda and take up agenda item 9A, a discussion and possible vote on the sanitation agreement between the town and All American Waste LLC. Is there a motion?
Move to accept the contract between All American Waste LLC and the town of East Windsor and authorize the signature of the first selectman.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I have mine. Yeah, I can't support this. This is a 10-year contract. I don't think we should be binding the town to a 10-year contract for waste removal.
Any other comments? I'll just say that by going to a 10-year contract, the town realized additional savings on the fees associated with waste disposal that would not otherwise have been available over a shorter duration. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No?
Motion carries. Next up is a discussion on the memorandum of agreement between the police union and the town pertaining to year 3 of the police union contract wages.
I move to ratify the agreement between the town of East Windsor and local 3583 Council for AFSCME AFL-CIO Police Union and authorize the signature of the first selectman.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Our last item for tonight, discuss and approve the vacation carryover request pertaining to Deputy Chief Murphy.
I move to approve the carryover time of 2 vacation days for Deputy Chief Benjamin Murphy.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Just briefly, I will note that the deputy chief has not taken the vacation time that's been available to him, in large part because of his coming into the department and all of his new responsibilities. So I think we appreciate the effort that he's made as he's come into the department, and I think it's appropriate for us to allow him to retain those vacation days under these circumstances.
Agreed. Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. With no further business to come before the board, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
Move, we adjourn at 11:54 PM.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 11:54 PM.